Here we have a building that Gisele Bündchen and Tom Brady both have an apartment in, a penthouse apartment. There's rumors they're in contracts to sell the penthouse apartment, but that hasn't been confirmed yet. But what a great building. Now the history of this building is very interesting. The guy who put it up, or the folks who put it up, ended up going out of business. Someone else had to buy it out and finish the project. And so it's an amazing building. So high, right at the end of the street, right at the end of Madison Avenue. Just a beautiful design, beautiful building. This really tall building, and you can see here, beautiful, beautiful, and it's such a beautiful sky set against the clouds. Just amazing seeing that. And then this building has a great environment around it, a great park that's right next door, so people can just enjoy this park, walk outside of the building and just relax. And here's a beautiful fountain right next to the building also. You can see all the other people around here just enjoying their environment. It's just amazing seeing this. It's just an amazing city, New York. An amazing area where people come from all over and kind of forget where they're from and just become part of the New York culture, the New York vibe. A much closer view of 20 East 23rd Street. That's that very tall building that has a lot of well-known people living in it. That is beautiful from the distance. Just one of those buildings that you would want to live in if you had the money. A lot of famous people live there, but again, you definitely need the money to live there. Even if you could buy the place, the maintenance costs and the ongoing costs of living in a building like that would be very, very high. So it's kind of like a fashion statement to live in this kind of a building. Now you can see all the buildings around here that they're developing or about to develop. That's what usually happens. You have buildings like 20 East 23rd Street that get off the ground. Then you have other buildings that pop up, like this other luxury development here that popped up. And then all of a sudden, value of the various buildings start to increase. And so then you have other developers that appear. And you can bet that some of these empty properties or these low-lying properties are already owned by developers with the intention of some future development. It's just that they have to acquire the neighboring properties to have sufficient space to put up a really tall building. Because they don't just want to put up a thin building, they want to put up a tall building. Because that's where the value is. Like this building is almost like 3 parcels put together. So that's usually what they'd be looking for. But it's always such a struggle to be able to figure out who wants to sell. And then, every now and then, people happen to be living in the buildings, and the people say, well, where am I going to go if I sell out? No matter how much money you give me, it's going to be just as expensive to live somewhere else, and then I'll end up spending all the money that you give me versus having a very low-cost apartment in the building that I'm in. And that's what a lot of people choose to do. So that's why a lot of developers take decades to create a parcel large enough to put a tall building on it. And I'm sure that's what they're having right now with this area. You can see how you have 20 East 23rd Street, you have another high-rise apartment building, but then right near there you have these low-rise buildings, and I'm sure people have their eye on them. The only issue is who lives there, how much is someone willing to pay, and who wants to develop it. Because obviously some moneyed developer would say, well, they want to do it, versus letting someone else do it, because that's where the value is. Creating extra value and then reaping the rewards by selling off the building or selling off parts of the building individually. Now, more recently, the trend has become in New York where developers sell off the retail space. They put up the building, and there are people out there with a lot of liquidity who choose just to buy the retail space as a condominium. So they own the retail space, they pay into the maintenance of the building, and this way they pay for the retail space with cash, no debt, so whatever the rent is, $20,000 a month, $30,000 a month, that's what they get for owning the retail space. And it's kind of like a bond, but a high yield bond. But the dilemma with that is you have to have the capital to put up front, and you have to know which developer and which area to invest in. And the building they just put up here, more recently in the last few years, was just a fabulous creation. Slightly different view of 20 East 23rd Street. The sun is a little less now, so it provides better insight into what's going on with this building and how the architecture was done. And you can see once we get to the ground floor how the McDonald's next door is having its space also used as part of the building. And like what I'm referring to, you can see the pipes going into the building of 20 East 23rd Street. So it's a good bet. There's a long-term lease on McDonald's if they couldn't just get rid of it. And whoever the developer is of the building has long-term plans for the neighboring buildings. Like you can see, all smaller buildings. And look at this building here. Nothing is going on inside the building. So you can bet they're probably thinking about demolition. They just don't want anyone in the building because it could delay any future development. And usually a good sign of development is when you have these smaller buildings like the Arby's here and the neighboring building, Shoe Repair Shop, Sophie's Cuban Cuisine, and McDonald's. These are all buildings primed for redevelopment. And they will be redeveloped because they're just so out of place in a neighborhood that has taller buildings.